Welcome, travelers, to a place where the river Nile runs like blood through the heart of an empire. A land where gods walk among men, where pharaohs hold the key to eternal life, and where the great pyramids stand as silent sentinels against the passage of time. This is a tale spun from the sands of history, carried on the winds of legend, and etched in the stars above us. We begin our journey in the shadow of the Sphinx, where the desert whispers secrets to those who listen closely. Imagine the year 2580 BC. The pharaoh has just died. His body, encased in gold, lies on a stone slab, the beginnings of mummification starting to take place. Around him, the court is in chaos, scheming for control. But there is work to be done. For the pharaoh's body to last for eternity, it must be watched over by someone willing to sacrifice everything for duty. Enter Pharaoh, a young woman whose life is about to change forever. She is chosen to guard the pharaoh's tomb, a task reserved only for the most loyal and courageous subjects. With her are three others, each bearing the burden of their own secrets. There is Khefu, the strong and silent leader; Nefer, whose beauty hides a sharp intellect; and Daka, the witty cynic with a haunted past. Together, they form a bond that will withstand the test of time itself. As the four guardians stand watch, they uncover a plot to steal the pharaoh's treasure. Betrayed by one of their own, they must fight to protect the tomb and preserve the pharaoh's legacy. Along the way, they'll face terrifying traps, unravel ancient mysteries, and confront the darkness that lurks in the hearts of men. In a world where power is a game and the stakes are life or death, Pharaoh must find the strength within her to save not only the kingdom, but also her own soul. For the pharaoh's treasure is not just gold and jewels, but the very essence of his being. And those who seek to possess it will stop at nothing to claim it as their own. But the shadows are growing longer in the land of the pharaohs. A new evil is stirring, threatening to engulf the kingdom in darkness. As the guardians race against time to complete their sacred duty, they must also contend with the rising threat, for the fate of the kingdom hangs in the balance. Will they succeed in protecting the pharaoh's legacy, or will the treasure be lost forever? Will Pharaoh emerge as a true leader, or will the darkness consume her? The answer lies in the chambers of the heart, where the greatest treasures are not made of gold, but of courage, loyalty, and love. Our journey continues with Akhenaten, the heretic pharaoh who dared to defy the gods. His obsession with the sun god Aten led to the construction of a new capital city and a revolution in art and architecture. But his radical reforms did not come without a cost. Amidst the splendor of the royal court, a dark conspiracy brews, threatening to destroy everything Aten has built. As the royal family flees for their lives, the young pharaoh must choose between his duty to his people and his love for his family. Can he overcome the forces that seek to destroy him and secure a brighter future for Egypt, or will his reign end in tragedy? The ruins of Amarna, once a beacon of enlightenment, now lie abandoned, a haunting reminder of a pharaoh's dreams of a better world. Our final descent takes us deep into the Valley of the Kings, where the pharaoh's final resting places echo with the whispers of eternity. Amidst the labyrinth of tunnels and hidden tombs, a curse is born, one that will haunt the ancient world for centuries to come. As explorers and archaeologists brave the dangers of the underground kingdom, they awaken an evil that should have remained at rest. Now, the curse of the pharaohs is unleashed, bringing with it the promise of riches and the threat of eternal damnation. In the heart of the labyrinth, we meet a cast of characters as diverse as the pharaohs themselves. There's Victor, the charismatic leader of the expedition, driven by a thirst for knowledge and glory. Isabella, the brilliant archaeologist whose fascination with ancient Egypt knows no bounds. And Jafar, the enigmatic guide whose knowledge of the hidden tombs may hold the key to survival. Together, they venture deeper into the labyrinth, where the air grows thick with danger and the whispers of the curse intensify. With every step, They must rely on their wits and courage to survive, for the curse of the pharaohs is not easily escaped. But the allure of discovery is too strong to resist, and the explorers press on, unaware of the horrors that await them in the darkest depths of the underground kingdom. The descent ends here, and our journey through the forgotten corners of ancient Egypt comes to a close. Perhaps you feel the lingering presence of the pharaohs, their stories echoing in the chambers of your own heart. Maybe you heard the lament of the desert wind, carrying tales of a bygone era. If you enjoyed this episode, remember to anchor yourself to reality by liking the video. Your support helps keep these stories alive, allowing our dive into history to continue. If you want to embark on further adventures, all you have to do is set your intention and follow the path. With every like, comment, and share, you help us bring more of these immersive experiences to the world. Thank you for joining us today, and until next time, may the sands of eternity guide your steps. The sun dips below the horizon, and the massive bulk of the Great Pyramid seems to darken in sympathy. It's hard to tell where the shadow of the structure ends and the gathering gloom of twilight begins. You are stiff and sore, but it's a good kind of tired, the kind that speaks of honest labor and a day well spent. You find yourself humming along with the rhythmic clack of the hammer as another block is raised into place on the pyramid's outer casing. Your supervisor, a wiry man with eyes like chips of flint, nods at you in approval. Your hands are blistered, your back aches, and your feet are coated in dust. But there is a lump in your throat as you watch the last rays of sun glint off the pyramid's peak, a rough-hewn pyramidion of granite that seems to kiss the stars. For 4 years you have worked here, and every sunrise you have watched the pyramid grow a little taller, a little grander. Soon it will be complete, capped with a precious metal that gleams like the sun itself. You and the thousands of others who work here are not slaves, though many outsiders think you are. No, you are conscripted workers, laborers taken from the fields during the Nile's flood season, when your labor is not needed. The Pharaoh gives you work, food, and shelter in return for your service. And what service could be more divine than building a pyramid for the gods? The barracks where you sleep with hundreds of other men are long and low, made of sun-baked mud brick. They smell faintly of sweat and smoke, and the dry, rustling straw mats that you share with your bunkmates. Privacy is rare. A cough echoes through the night, rattling the ribs of the building. It's always the same sounds that fill your ears as you try to sleep. The drone of mosquitoes seeking blood, the murmur of men speaking in hushed tones, the scrape of a man shifting on his mat, the sigh of the desert wind, sometimes the mournful cry of an owl. You wake before the sun. The air is still cool, but already thick with dust. You are one of thousands, a laborer in the shadow of the Great Pyramids. Not a slave, though many believe so, but a conscripted worker, part of a vast state-run operation that churns with the rhythm of stone, sweat, and ritual. The day's work begins with a dry hunk of bread and some beer, thick and sour, more like a mash. It's not unpleasant, but it's not refreshing either. It's food, fuel, that's all. Then the real labor begins. You make your way up a rising causeway of dust and noise. Overseers shout instructions over the din of hammers on stone. Oxen groan as they pull sleds laden with blocks the size of small rooms. You don't place the capstone atop the pyramid. That's far too prestigious. You move rocks. You drag rubble. You shovel sand and swing a copper chisel that dulls quickly in the heat. The work is hard and the pace is set by the sun. You follow its arc across the sky from east to west, always west. You do not build on the east side of the pyramid because that would cast a shadow on the face of the rising sun. Shadows are important. Every block you raise, every furrow you dig, every indentation you make with your chisel brings you closer to the gods, closer to the Pharaoh, closer to the eternal order of the universe. The best days are when nothing is broken. A crushed foot, a broken bone, a lost eye, those are the worst days. There's no shouting, no chaos. Just a quiet hush as the man is carried away on a stretcher, and then the rhythm resumes. You are replaceable. But at the end of the day, as the pyramid claims the last bits of daylight, you feel a kinship with these stones, a connection to the men who died building them, a solidarity with the workers who came before you and those who will come after you. You may be just a small part of this massive machine, but like the pyramid itself, you are enduring, you are unyielding, and you are forever reaching for the sky. The overseers wear polished kilts and hold carved staffs. They report to scribes, literate, aloof, always watching. The scribes record your rations, your work output, your illness if you report it, your failure to show up. It is all inked neatly onto a straka or rolls of papyrus. There is some comfort in the structure. You are fed barley bread, onions, salted fish. Your family may even be compensated. There are festivals. Sometimes a bit of meat. You might receive oil for your skin, or beer in celebration of the god Ptah, patron of craftsmen. But rest is rare. Gratitude, rarer still. Some nights you hear singing in the distance, priests maybe, or nobles at feast. But their lives are another world. Yours is stone and rope. Yours is the constant ache in your shoulders, the bitter tang of limestone dust in the back of your throat, the knowledge that the pyramid will endure, but your name, your story, will not. Still, you return each day, because the work must be done, and the Pharaoh's tomb waits for no man. Let us pause here, and leave behind the labor camps of Giza. Let the desert wind carry us across time, toward a different chapter, one just as mysterious. What is this place? Where are we going? What manner of tomb will we see? Is this the fabled house of life? Ah, here, look, a weathered inscription. No disease, no decay. So the priests hoped to cheat death by sheltering in a tomb filled with sacred texts. The great Sphinx guards the way, its human face serene, its lion's body coiled like a sleeping serpent. We hear the whisper of wings and see a hawk wheeling overhead. Horus, perhaps the king is near. We must hurry. Hurry, the king is close. Where are we going? To a hidden chamber, perhaps, where treasures lie buried, where untold riches will make us kings in our own right. Or is there nothing here save dust and darkness? Oh, how cold it is! And the stench of decay clings to the air. Unlucky enough to find this place and live to tell the tale. What would you give to escape this tomb? What price to the king and queen for just a single hour of daylight? An entire kingdom for a taste of fresh air, for the feel of sun on skin. Are these the riches that outlast a lifetime? Is this what the king sought when he raised his eternal pyramid into the sky? Is this the prize for those who toiled and died? We think of the slave who asked for more time to finish his song, who begged the overseer for just one more day to perfect his monument. Did he dream of this? A monument to house the dead Pharaoh and the living king. They come from lands beyond the river, these new masters, men who knew the ways of the sea and sailed across the waves to conquer new lands. They brought strange gods with them, gods of metal and war. Can the old magic stand against them? Will the Book of the Dead protect the Pharaoh in this new age? When the tombs are robbed and the pyramids crumble, what will become of the legacy of the river kingdom? This queen once commanded the seas. Now her ships are desert bones. Her armies are scattered dust. Even Ra could not shield her from the relentless tide of time. Do you feel the heat rising? Do you smell the burning? Can you hear the screams? Is this the end of an era? Is there nowhere left for the river kingdom to go? What hope have we now? We turn and flee down labyrinthine corridors, past chambers filled with priceless treasures. Who will claim them now? Whose eyes will glisten with greed upon discovering them? Will they bring light into the darkness? Will they offer the prisoners a chance at freedom? We do not know. We only know we must get out, away from the burning palace, away from the greedy hands that reach for power, away from the insatiable flame that devours all in its path. We emerge blinking into the daylight, shielding our eyes against the glare after so many years underground. How sweet the air is. How beautiful the world. If only we could stay here. If only we could hold on to this feeling, to this moment. But we cannot. The road stretches endlessly before us, and we must walk it alone. Our journey is over. Your journey has just begun. Every so often we talk about Egyptian history here on this channel, and every time it feels like we're recovering new ground. Even though there are only so many pyramids and mummies to go around, there's just so much there. 3,000 years worth of politics, war, economy, society, and culture in one of the most well-preserved civilizations of the ancient world. It's easy to feel like there's more to uncover, because there probably is. But even if you've heard all the big stories before, sometimes it's the small details that resonate the most. And that's why I find Egyptology such a pleasure. For instance, did you know that when King Tutankhamun died, he wasn't the first to occupy that particular tomb? Scholars believe someone else was laid to rest there about 200 years earlier, but their mummy has never been found. Or how about this one? Did you know that the desert doesn't change much over the centuries? The same golden light, the same slow wind that smooths the stones at Giza, would one day blow through the strange and short-lived city of Akhenaten. Imagine now, you are standing at the edge of a newly founded city, not in the shadow of a pyramid, but beneath the open sun, where a pharaoh once dared to break with over 1,000 years of tradition. This is the world of Akhenaten. Let's imagine what you might see. His name was not always Akhenaten. He was born Amenhotep IV, son of a powerful line, heir to a faith centered on the god Amun, and a vast priesthood whose influence rivaled that of the throne itself. The young prince grew up in Thebes, the traditional seat of power, where his father, the great warrior Pharaoh Thutmose III, kept a tight hold on the kingdom. But something stirred within this young pharaoh, a vision, or perhaps a rebellion. In his 5th regal year, he changed everything. He cast aside the old gods. He shut down temples, seized their wealth, and raised in their place a singular deity, Aten, the sun disk, pure light, pure energy, unpersonified and universal. He renamed himself Akhenaten, effective for the Aten, and he moved the royal court to a freshly built city in the desert, Akhenaten, the horizon of the Aten. And there he ruled in ways no pharaoh had before. The art of his reign tells the story. No more rigid, idealized figures. Instead, Akhenaten appears with a long face, narrow limbs, and a curved belly. Some say deformed, others say divine. His wife, Nefertiti, has the same elongated features, but hers are softer, more alluring. Their daughters look like strange, skinny, prepubescent adults. Everyone else is drawn with exaggerated anatomy, too, with spindly legs and necks and huge, vacant eyes. Some scholars think this represents the physical degeneracy of the royal line, while others see a deliberate attempt to distance from the naturalism of the Old Kingdom and move toward abstraction. The effect is uncanny, alien even, which makes sense considering that Akhenaten's Amarna period only lasted for 17 years, from roughly 1353 to 1336 BC. That's less than 2 decades of Egyptian history. Yet the legacy of this era continues to fascinate us today. The bust of Nefertiti, for example, is one of the most famous pieces of ancient sculpture out there, largely because it captures a moment in history that feels totally foreign to us. The city of Akhenaten, however, was totally real. The ruins are still there in the desert sands. You can walk among the crumbling remains of what was once the world's most modern city. Here, the streets were paved with stone and lined with flower beds. Houses had flat roofs and second-story balconies. There were drainage ditches and sewage systems. The whole place looked like a Mediterranean village, only it was built 3,000 years ago in the middle of the Egyptian desert, and that kind of blows my mind. It's hard to overstate how radical this place was. It represented a complete break from the past and an absolute revolution in Egyptian life, religion, and art. Unfortunately, it also turned out to be a total disaster. By the end of Akhenaten's reign, Egypt was a shadow of its former self, and the country never recovered. We'll talk about why that happened next week. In the meantime, you can learn more about the discovery of Akhenaten through additional resources. Thanks for watching. He is shown embracing his queen, Nefertiti, and playing gently with his children. A rare intimacy for a king, especially one believed to embody the gods. But not all was peace and sunlight. By centralizing faith under Aten, Akhenaten destabilized centuries of religious structure. The priesthood of Amun, once all-powerful, was dissolved. Their temples silenced. Their influence erased from inscriptions. Many Egyptians, from farmers to nobles, must have felt deeply uneasy. The gods of their ancestors were suddenly illegal. The comforting rituals of birth and death disrupted. The festivals they relied upon for spiritual and seasonal rhythm canceled or rewritten. Still, the pharaoh persisted. He wrote hymns to Aten, glorifying the sun as the source of all life. He claimed that only he understood the divine, that the people could reach Aten only through him. And then he vanished. There is no clear record of Akhenaten's death. No royal burial has been definitively identified. No grand funerary monument, no clear succession plan. Some speculate he was buried hastily in the royal tomb at Amarne's city, though signs suggest his mummy may have been moved or defaced later. Others whisper that he was overthrown, possibly by palace officials or even his own family. Still others wonder if the trauma of his religious upheaval made the court eager to erase him altogether. What followed was swift. His successors, perhaps including a young boy named Tutankhaten, restored the old gods. Tutankhaten would change his name to Tutankhamun. The temples of Amun were reopened. Aten's city, Akhenaten, was abandoned to the desert. The wind blew through its empty streets, filling the gaps between broken walls and faded altars with sand. And Akhenaten's name, once carved into stone, was deliberately chiseled away, yet traces of him remain. In sunlit reliefs, in fragments of poetry, and in the echo of an idea that one man could remake the world. Let us leave this vanished city now. Let the sun set on Akhenaten, and follow the faint trail of another mystery, not of kings and temples, but of tunes, curses, and explorers lost to time. Do you see it? There, in the distance, beyond the towering cliffs of the Siwa oasis, something glints in the relentless Egyptian sun. Is it a mirage? A glint of metal on cloth? Perhaps both. For here where the desert seems to writhe, and the dunes writhe back, there really is water. A hidden spring bubbling up from the earth, fed by waters that may be older than time itself. This is the emerald mine at the edge of the world, the place where Alexander the Great came to bathe in healing waters, and where a young British officer encountered something far more intriguing. It was 1881 when Flinders Petrie, an explorer and excavator of ancient Egypt, arrived at the site. He recognized the area as the biblical land of Shur, where, according to legend, Joseph was buried after being brought to Egypt by his brother Benjamin. Petrie began excavating a large mound near the spring and soon uncovered remnants of a vast settlement. There were bits of pottery, flakes of copper, even pieces of what might have been a temple. But Petrie had come for a tomb, and deep beneath the town he found it, cut into the bedrock like a gigantic checkerboard. The entrance yawned before him, guarded by two colossal sphinx. One was damaged, but the other, though eroded by centuries of wind and sand, seemed to gaze directly at him. As if daring him to enter, Petrie descended into darkness, feeling his way along damp walls. The air grew heavy, laden with dust and the scent of decay. Then suddenly, a shaft of light pierced the gloom. Petrie stepped into a vast chamber, and there it was, glistening in the artificial glow of his lantern, the sarcophagus of an unknown pharaoh. Standing before it, Petrie ran his hand along a weathered hieroglyph, trying to decipher the inscription. Who lay here? The magnificent sarcophagus suggested a powerful ruler, yet the name was almost entirely worn away. All that remained was the faintest trace of what might have been a royal title. So the search continued, season after season. More tombs were found, each filled with treasures of antiquity. Petrie carefully brushed sand from tiny coffins, revealing mummies swaddled in linen. He uncovered bowls bearing the names of forgotten pharaohs and temples dedicated to gods long since silenced. But it was the great tomb that captivated him most. Who was this pharaoh who lay here at the edge of the world? Why was he buried in a secret oasis far from the royal necropolis? And why did his tomb hold so many wonders? Or was it a curse? For those who dared disturb the pharaoh's eternal rest, strange things happened. Tools broke, animals died, and one explorer even went blind. Whatever the truth, the discovery of the royal cachet at Djoser's oasis revealed a hidden past. A past that whispered of gods and pharaohs, of magic and mystery. A past that would forever change the way we understand ancient Egypt. So does the curse of the pharaoh still live on? Or was it just a bunch of nonsense? You decide in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more exciting adventures. See you next time. The death of Lord Carnarvon, the man whose funding made the discovery possible, played right into the hands of sensationalist newspapers eager to construct a narrative of death and curses. The story captivated the public imagination, fueled by the exotic allure of ancient Egypt and the perceived hubris of those daring to disturb its secrets. Did Tutankhamun's tomb hold a vengeful spirit? Was there a real curse? Or was this a case of overblown publicity seeking? Today, we navigate the labyrinth of myth and reality, uncovering the truth behind the headlines. But let's not jump the gun, shall we? Let's take a moment to bask in that headline. The world is our oyster and dam. Does it taste like scandal? But before we dive into the murky depths of the supposed curse, let's set the stage. Meet Howard Carter, an archaeologist whose name echoes through time. Born in 1874 in London, Carter's life was dedicated to one pursuit: unearthing the treasures of the past. His obsession began early. His first excavation at the age of 17. He was hooked. Egypt became his domain. By the early 20th century, he had meticulously explored every nook and cranny of the Valley of the Kings, hoping to make his mark. Then came the fateful year of 1922. With funds from the ever-drunk, ever-optimistic Lord Carnarvon, Carter assembled a team and descended into the earth. Their goal: uncover the lost tomb of the boy King Tutankhamun. The discovery sent shock waves across the globe. The media frenzy that followed was intense. Every artifact, every chamber of the tomb was scrutinized, photographed, measured. And then came the artifacts. Over 5,000 pieces, including chariots, furniture, even the remains of Tutankhamun's stepmother, Akhenaten. It was a treasure trove. But amidst the excitement, whispers arose. Rumors of a curse, tales of retribution. The first casualty was Carnarvon. He died in 1923, officially from a mosquito bite. But the press proclaimed curse. Carnarvon's half-brother, George, died next, then members of the dig team, even Carter's canary. Each death fueled the fire, adding another log to the blaze of sensationalism. Was there a curse, though? Carter himself, a man of science, dismissed the notion. He saw curses as superstitious nonsense, a product of overactive imaginations. But the public wasn't convinced. The curse became a cultural touchstone, a cautionary tale about the limits of human curiosity. Movies, books, newspaper articles, they all fed the frenzy. Hollywood, always eager for a good yarn, wove tales of curses and revenge. One of the most famous being The Mummy's Curse, a 1959 movie starring Christopher Lee. Carter, meanwhile, continued his work, undeterred by the rumors. He went on to discover other tombs, each one a testament to his dedication and patience. But the shadow of the curse lingered. People wondered if his own name would be added to the list. In 1939, at the age of 66, Carter died, not from a mysterious curse, but from cancer. As the years passed, the curse faded from the headlines. But the story doesn't end there. It lives on in our collective consciousness, a reminder of a time when the unknown was met with fear and fascination in equal measure. Today, visitors to the Valley of the Kings tread softly, perhaps aware of the legend, perhaps not. But one thing is certain, the spirit of adventure and discovery lives on. The curse may be a myth, but the allure of ancient Egypt, that's forever. So was there really a curse? Well, here's what we say. Curses are in the eye of the beholder. Yes, people died, but most from natural causes or unrelated circumstances. The sensationalist press, however, saw a story and damn, did they run with it? As for the tomb itself, it stands as a testament to human ingenuity and the enduring mysteries of the past. The curse may have made for good headlines, but it was the discovery itself that was the real treasure. Thank you for joining us today. We hope you've enjoyed this journey through history and legend. If you'd like to support our channel, please consider making a donation. Your support helps us continue to bring these stories to life. Until next time, stay curious. The year is 1922. King Tut's tomb has just been opened. Newspapers, especially in Europe and America, were delighted. Each new misfortune was another clue. And the public, already enchanted by golden coffins and hieroglyphs, leaned in. But what was the truth? Modern historians have investigated the so-called curse. Some suggest mold spores or ancient bacteria in the sealed tombs may have harmed early explorers, especially those with weakened immune systems. Others argue the patterns were no more than coincidence. In fact, many of the original excavation team lived into old age, including Howard Carter himself. And the famous inscription said to have been carved above Tutankhamun's tomb, "Death shall come on swift wings to him who disturbs the king's peace," has never actually been found. Still, the myth persists. Perhaps because it speaks to something deeper, a sense that these tombs, carved by hand and filled with symbols of eternal life, were meant to remain untouched, and that even in death, a pharaoh's power might endure. Not all mysteries were born of curses, of course. Some explorers vanished in the desert heat, carried off by sandstorms, or buried by shifting cliffs. Some expeditions found nothing at all digging for years, only to strike sun-baked rock. Others misinterpreted what they uncovered, projecting stories onto objects that had none. A cracked jar becomes a magical urn, a child's amulet, a relic of ancient sorcery. This is the way of human curiosity. We fill the gaps with wonder, and sometimes with fear. As we leave the tomb now, gently brushing dust from our thoughts, you might feel the cool breath of that underground chamber still lingering. The legends remain, whether true or not, just as the stones remain, silent, waiting, watching. And so we move again from shadowy corridors to candlelit luxury, from linen-wrapped kings to a queen who dazzled Rome. Welcome to the Palace of the Sun. Cleopatra dreamt of an empire unconstrained by borders, where the riches of the Nile flowed freely into the Mediterranean and beyond. She made her way to Rome, a city which had never known an Egyptian ruler. Here, splendor awaited her, orchestrated by none other than Mark Antony, the most powerful man in Rome. Imagine entering the palace as a guest. You pass through a great gate and find yourself in the triclinium, a dining room adorned with gold leaf and red-veined marble. At its center sits a table piled high with delicacies, garnished with flowers and lit by fat, steady candles. Servants glide between guests bearing goblets of spiced wine and plates piled with figs, dates, and grapes, fresh from the fertile Egyptian fields. Laughter echoes around you as musicians pluck at their instruments, filling the air with the sounds of Alexandria. It is here in this very room that Cleopatra will receive her guests. But she is not yet ready. Your hostess is taking her time in the cubiculum, her private chamber. Here, perfumers await, ready to anoint her body with oils of cinnamon, cassia, and myrrh. Her attendants are already dressed in fine linen, their turbans tied with gold. They fidget, eager to please, while Cleopatra delays, lost in thought. What will Rome think of her? Will Antony be as taken with her as her sister and mother were before her? She runs a hand over the surface of a marble table, cool and smooth beneath her fingertips. Everything must be perfect. When she emerges from the bath, arrayed in gold and precious stones, she will dazzle them all. You hear a flute, then another, then a whole chorus of instruments joining together. It is time. The musicians are playing the signal. For your entrance, you follow the sound as it swells and rises, echoing through the palace. As you push open the door, you can see the musicians, a whole orchestra assembled in the atrium. Before them, in the center of the courtyard, stands Cleopatra, bathed in light, surrounded by her court. She has seen you. And though there is no smile on her face, her eyes gleam like polished obsidian. She has saved you a place in her triumph. Thank you for visiting the Palace of the Sun. To learn more about the ways of the ancient Egyptians, explore additional resources. As you enter the bustling marketplace, don't forget to grab your free guide to help navigate this rich and complex world. And be sure to join us next time for more adventures among the tombs and temples of Egypt. While you were enjoying your life in ancient Egypt, Rome was busy taking over the known world. By 48 BC, they controlled the western Mediterranean. Soon, their sights were set on the east, on Alexandria. And when Caesar arrived in the city, Cleopatra wasn't going to take any chances. She disguised herself, not as a man, but as an ordinary woman of the street. She slipped past his guards and slipped into his bed. A most unlikely couple woke up in that room that morning. The conquering Roman general and the queen of the Nile. He may have been expecting resistance, but Cleopatra was ready. She understood power better than anyone. She used her skills to get exactly what she wanted, even if it meant ignoring the warnings of her own counselors. Even if it meant making a forbidden love affair public. She took her lover, Caesar, around Egypt. They visited the great sites. He saw wonders that hadn't been seen in centuries. And she made sure that every Alexandrian knew the two were together. That's right. Before there was Kim Kardashian, there was Cleopatra. She wanted everyone to know that she was Caesar's mistress. Why? Because she knew just how valuable that relationship would be. When Caesar left Egypt, he took Cleopatra with him back to Rome. There, she bore him a son and became a celebrity. She attended parties, banquets, gladiator games, and even posed for coins minted by Caesar, all the while keeping an eye on her own interests. She made sure that her son Caesarion was considered legitimate and next in line for the throne. Then when Caesar was assassinated, she wasted no time getting to work, securing her own power. She headed back to Alexandria, though not before making sure that Caesar's adopted son, Octavian, also known as Augustus, the future emperor, was well taken care of. Yes, that Augustus. Time to meet the second member of the club. Rome had come to Egypt, not as allies, but as conquerors. Their leader, Octavian, soon declared himself the first emperor of Rome, now known as Augustus. He reorganized the empire, setting up provinces and systems of government that are still being used today. It was a shrewd move, because Rome didn't have much experience ruling over other countries. But Augustus brought stability and peace to the empire. The Pax Romana, as it came to be known, lasted for 2 centuries. Trade flourished, provinces prospered, and Rome's power peaked. And so began one of the strangest relationships in history. Augustus never married Cleopatra, but he did accept her son Caesarion as his nephew and heir. He even allowed Cleopatra to keep her fortune. In fact, he gave her even more money. To show his appreciation for how she handled the transition, Augustus presented Cleopatra with a priceless pearl the size of an egg. And according to legend, she returned the favor with a pair of matching earrings. They became valuable trading partners, too. She sold papyrus and perfume to Rome. And in return, the Romans supplied grain, wine, and luxury goods. Augustus even sent her a golden throne. And she was so pleased that she put it in the Temple of Rome, where it stayed for centuries. But this partnership didn't last forever. Augustus demanded absolute loyalty from his subjects. And when his officials found out about a plot involving Cleopatra and her sister, they removed them from power. The sisters were accused of trying to poison Augustus and were forced to flee to distant provinces. In exile, Cleopatra spent her remaining days running a casino and brothel. Though she had been one of the wealthiest women in the world, she died believing herself to be cursed by the gods. When her son Caesarion was executed by Augustus, it is said that she threw herself into a tomb filled with poisonous snakes rather than live without him. Talk about a snake charmer. She may have gotten her wish because her remains were never recovered. So the question remains, did Cleopatra really die by throwing herself on a sword, or perhaps a snake's nest? What do you think happened to Cleopatra? Let us know in the comments below. And remember, if you want to learn more about the history of the royals, then stay tuned for more information. Now, when Rome came calling, Cleopatra had other fish to fry. And so, she turned her gaze west, first to Julius Caesar, who arrived in Egypt not to admire, but to manage. Still, Cleopatra knew how to captivate. The stories say she had herself smuggled into his quarters in a rolled-up carpet. True or not, what matters is that she emerged as a queen once more, pregnant with Caesar's child, publicly recognized, dangerously powerful. After Caesar's assassination in Rome, her survival depended on a new partner, Mark Antony. Together, they ruled from Alexandria with splendor. They held feasts so elaborate that flowers rained from the ceiling. They drank rare wines chilled with snow carried from mountaintops. They staged mock weddings of gods and goddesses. Aphrodite and Dionysus performed by themselves. But this was not mere indulgence. Every gesture was calculated. Every extravagance, a signal. To the Roman Senate, to Egypt's elite, to history itself. Yet politics, like the Nile, can shift without warning. The tide turned. Octavian, Caesar's adopted son, declared war. Not just on Cleopatra's army, but on her reputation. She became Rome's villain, the foreign seductress, the serpent queen, the enemy of order. And after defeat at Actium, the end came quietly. The palace grew silent. Allies disappeared. The perfumes faded. Tradition holds that Cleopatra died by asp, though modern scholars remain unconvinced. What's more likely is a quiet room, a final choice, and a message to Rome that she would not be paraded as a trophy. With her ended not only a dynasty, but a certain vision of Egypt, one of art and astronomy, of temple music and multilingual rule. And yet, as we leave her court now, letting the soft glow of oil lamps fade behind us, we do not remember her only for how she died, but for how she ruled, alone in a world of men, commanding a fading kingdom with grace, intellect, and steel hidden beneath silk. Do you think Cleopatra chose to die rather than be captured by Octavian? You could say that this story is really about power, right? The desire for power, the pursuit of power, the corruption of power, the loss of power. We see this play out in all of our stories. This story, too, is in some ways the story of the great Roman Empire's rise to power and its growing dominance over the Mediterranean world. So if you're enjoying this series, if you're enjoying these stories from the past, brought to life with our music and sound design, if you want to see more of this kind of content, more historical tales like this one, then let us know. Hit the like button, share the love, and let's keep telling these stories. The world today is full of challenges, and it can feel like we're reliving through a particularly turbulent time. It's easy to get overwhelmed by the state of the world. But throughout history, people have found ways to push back against injustice, to stand up for what's right, to keep going, even when things look bleak. And it's these stories, the stories of ordinary people who've done extraordinary things, that inspire us to keep going. That's why we're so excited to share this series with you. Stories of courage from around the world. Each episode, we bring you the tale of an ordinary person who's done something extraordinary, who's shown us that even in the darkest of times, hope and courage can prevail. Stories like the one about Irena Sendler, a Polish social worker who saved Jewish children from the Nazis by smuggling them out of the Warsaw Ghetto in suitcases. Or the story of Abdul Razak Gershani, an Afghan schoolteacher who risked his life to educate girls in a remote village where they never had access to education before. These are just two of the incredible people whose stories we'll be sharing, and we can't wait for you to hear their tales. So go on, take a moment to subscribe and join us on this journey. Let these stories inspire you to be a force for good in the world, to stand up for what you believe in, and to never give up hope. And while you're at it, hit the notification bell so you'll never miss an episode. Because every day there's a new story to discover, a new hero to meet, and a new lesson and courage to learn. So don't wait. Subscribe today and start exploring the world of extraordinary people who will make you believe in the power of one. You have walked through many chambers tonight. The dust-choked ramps of Giza, the blinding horizon of Akhenaten, the quiet tombs filled with whispers, the perfumed courts of Alexandria. In each, the rhythm of life was shaped by power, belief, and survival. And always, the ordinary people, stone haulers, scribes, servants, and queens, kept the great machine of history turning, quietly and without praise. Tonight, you have joined them. If only in thought, so let your breathing slow once more. Let the hum of history soften into stillness. The pyramids stand quiet under the stars. The Nile flows on, and all the noise of empire has faded into sleep. You are safe. You are warm, and the past can rest with you now. Good night. Before the pharaohs built their great pyramids, the desert wind carried many stories across the dunes. For thousands of years, the Berbers followed the wandering stars, tending their flocks, trading with wandering minstrels, fighting desert nomads, and heeding the whispers of the old gods who lived in the rocks and the dunes. Their world was one of harsh beauty, where every color told a story. The indigo sky bled into the turquoise Nile, carving a path through the ochre sands to the hazy horizon. The red sun bled across the sky like spilled blood, staining the clouds with angry hues before sinking to rest among the reeds and papyrus of the delta. When it rose again, the colors shifted. The sky washed clean, the sun a cool orb in a sea of blue. And over it all, the ever-present green of the Nile, the artery of life that pulsed with the rhythm of the seasons. Green for rebirth, green for hope, green for eternity. And along its banks, the Egyptians built a world. They, too, read the colors of the sky and the land, but they saw omens there that were not of this world. As the sky bled from red to yellow to green, they saw the journey of the sun god Ra across the heavens. His daily battle against the forces of chaos, his victory each morning over the darkness, his retreat each evening to plan his return. Each sunrise a rebirth, each sunset a death and resurrection. The colors became a language, the sky a storyteller, and the Egyptians forever its audience. But the colors told other stories too, of the pharaohs their skin, the color of sun-baked clay, their eyes the green of the Nile, their hair the black of fertile soil, their robes the finest linen spun, their collars and headdresses set with lapis lazuli blue as the heavens themselves. And when they built their tombs, they were filled with the colors of eternity, red for courage and power, green for rebirth, blue for the sky and the river, gold for wealth and majesty. And in those tombs, amidst the treasures meant to sustain them in the afterlife, lay the sarcophagus, the size and shape of a human, but made of stone. The cold, unyielding stone, the color of bone, the weight of a mountain, an eternal shell to hold the mortal remains of a king. Inside, shrouded in layers of lead, nested in a coffin of cedarwood, lay the pharaoh, turned to dust. Outside, the colors danced and swirled, the sky, the river, the desert, the people. But inside the sarcophagus, there was only the color of dust and the silence of the desert night. The color drained from Akhenaten's face, leaving behind the mask of a death's head. His eyes, once bright with fanaticism, were empty sockets. His chest, once heaving with the breath of life, was a hollow cavern. He was a king without a kingdom, a god without a temple, a man without a soul. Around him, the funerary furniture, crafted with such loving care, seemed to writhe and twist, distorted into grotesque parodies of their former selves. The genset, meant to protect and guide the dead pharaoh, looked like a snarling monster. The baboons guarding the entrance to the tomb seemed to writhe in pain. Even the figures carved on the walls, meant to depict the gods and the pharaoh's ancestors, seemed to writhe and squirm as if trapped within their stone prisons. And outside, in the real world, the colors of the living, the vibrant hues of the sky and the land, mocked the monochrome tomb with their brilliance. The green of the Nile, the blue of the heavens, the red of the desert, the gold of the setting sun, they all seemed to scream in unison, "We are alive. We are alive. We are alive."